Hello everyone and welcome once again to the Long and Scaly Comic Book Vault. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, today we're talking about some more Amazing Spider-Man, and what is the name of the arc we're doing today?
The name of this arc is No Turning Back.
Oh man, you sound excited.
Yeah, it's real exciting.
Okay. So Dan and I have been kind of just reviewing these Amazing Spider-Man arcs as they've been coming out, and so this is the most recent one, so we're tackling it. But I feel the need to, and let me just go ahead and real quick and say that this is the Lizard one. I gotta say, Dan, that this may be the last time we do this. With Amazing Spider-Man. Not the last time that we do this together. I mean, we'll keep making vaults, yeah. But I don't know if I'm going to stay on this, man. And I know I've said that before, but I wanted to give it one more shot, dude. And I was about as impressed with this as I was the Octopus arc.
Yeah, I really didn't like this either. And I don't blame you. Are
you going to be that monotone the whole review?
No, I'll get a little bit more into it as we get into things, but I don't know, man. This arc, I feel like the crux of what this arc does with the characters is make them less interesting. And I find that sort of aggravating, and that's why I didn't like this at all.
It's one of those things where, just like with Ends of the Earth, the premise was fine, and I could see myself getting excited about it, potentially, if it was great, which was the reason that, I decided to go ahead and stay on it after not liking Ends of the Earth, where it's like, oh, cool, we're going to have, Morbius and the Lizard, and it'd been a while since we'd seen the Lizard, and so I was kind of excited about that, but this whole notion, I gotta tell you, it didn't even get me right out the gate like Ends of the Earth did. Like, Ends of the Earth, I read the first issue and I was like, cool, this is going somewhere. This, I was like, the premise alone, I was really unsure about it. I don't know how you felt about that, but I was like, really, we're going to do this thing where it's going to be all about, is the Lizard really the Lizard? Is Doc Connor's brain or mind still in there someplace? It seemed like it was trying really hard to be a human story, and it didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I really liked the idea of where I thought it was going to go thematically, and that's why I sort of thought the first two issues were really solid. I thought that what it was going to be playing with was using Spider-Man, Morbius, and the Lizard as sort of juxtapositions and comparing sort of how three guys that play with science and sort of, change the laws of nature with their work and stuff like that, sort of playing God, and how they're sort of cursed with their with the effects of doing those science experiments, and saying that maybe these guys are evil deep down in their personality because of what they've become. Like, Kirk Connors is really just a bad guy inside somewhere because of the Lizard and what he was trying to do by making people grow back their arms and stuff, healing, and that was sort of against natural law. I thought that was sort of interesting, but
that was there at the start, and then it was kind of dismissed, and then kind of even contradicted by the end.
Yeah, it sort of has that going in like the first two issues, and then Spider-Man sort of comes out and says exactly what the story's doing in like a throwaway line in dialogue where he's just like, Kirk Connors, what if you're the bad guy the whole time? Which I can see what Slott's trying to do, but it doesn't really make any sense. He's like, what if the Lizard is just you being resentful for losing your son and your wife and stuff? And I'm like, all right, if the Lizard first appeared like back when Connor still had his wife and his kid, and he was still being evil and still wanted to conquer the Earth and make everyone lizard people. So that doesn't really make much sense.
It really doesn't, and I kind of got what he was trying to do with it by the end, but I still was kind of confused about it as I was reading, because I was like, okay, so he's the Lizard, and he's not Doc Connors, and Doc Connors doesn't exist, but then he starts seeing his wife and kid whenever he looks at human beings, so then maybe he's there someplace after all, yeah. And then there's the whole, it was, the Lizard wasn't actually evil because lizards don't actually attack humans in nature. And so then maybe he was actually evil all along. And then at the end, it was when he gets the big thing stuck in his brain, and he and then like the actual Doc Connor's personality comes to full fruition. I was kind of confused as to whether or not there even were separate personalities ever.
Yeah, it was sort of weird. Like, Peter sort of brings that notion up that maybe Doc Connors is the evil guy, and then it's never addressed. And then you see him in the jail cell sort of thinking about, this is my curse and I have to live with it for what happened to my wife and my kid. And I'm like, well, does that mean Kirk Connors believes him, and we're giving validity to the notion that all along the Lizard was just an evil villain, and all the layered stuff with his character with the two personas before was never valid, and the character's less interesting now? It's like, okay.
I honestly wasn't entirely sure what all that was about by the end.
Yeah.
It really played up like just a simple non sequitur twist ending.
Yeah.
And I was hoping I was kind of feeling you out there as I was saying all that, because I was hoping maybe I missed something and that you, and that like you knew something I didn't.
I don't know. I feel like this arc was sort of just like a novelty. Let's take the usual Lizard formula for a story and turn it on its head. You had some little cool moments that I thought were little ironic things that I really liked when the Lizard is in Kirk Connor's body, and he manages to develop a perfect cure for healing his arm.
And then he had to chop it off, but it was the wrong one.
Yeah, and he can't turn himself back into the Lizard, but he succeeded in what Kirk Connors has been trying to accomplish his entire life, but couldn't accomplish what Kirk Connors failed in. I thought that was really interesting.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And that was cool. I also thought... See, tell me if you agree with this. I think that part of the problem is that Slott has a difficult time sometimes, maybe we said this before, of trying to decide if he's doing a funny kind of story or a really dramatic kind of story. It doesn't always mesh, because I feel like at the same time as he's trying to tell this very serious story about this guy who's trying to find his humanity again, and who thinks that his reptilian self is like this step higher on the evolutionary chain for whatever reason,
mm-hmm.
and that humans aren't as cool as lizard people. That at the same time, like, the way he's discovering that humanity is almost a joke. I mean, through like nachos and something resembling Tetris. And
yeah, he plays Wii, listens to Call Me Maybe, and eats fatty food. That's how he reconnects with humanity.
And I mean, like, I'm kind of two minds about that. I mean, there's a part of me that could kind of see it, where it's just, those are the things that he was around at the time, and, liked them. But at the same time, I couldn't decide if Slott was making fun of it or not.
Yeah, and he plays it off like it's a major motivation at the end, where he sort of changes the Lizard persona's motivation to, instead of wanting to conquer all humans, he envies all of us and is cursed to be stuck in a lizard body, and that's why he hates us now.
I feel like you have to ask that question.
Yeah.
Because that's his whole motivation at the end for kind of waffling a little bit. And again, I like that Slott had that he does waffle. That it is maybe instead of nachos it should have been waffles. But I appreciate the fact that he's kind of going back and forth. And at first, he's like, oh, you humans are beneath me, and it's not just but a few pages later that he starts finding things about humanity that he appreciates. And there are bits of that where when you take out the fact that it's nachos and we, that some of the things that he says, makes quite a bit of sense. The things that human beings can experience, the layers that we experience just in everyday life that his little lizard brain wouldn't let him experience when he was in his lizard body. I appreciated all of that, but again, when you got to the end of it, I felt like it got really caught up in this kind of really confused mythos of, was he ever Doc Connors? Was he not? I guess, I mean, obviously Doc Connors was in there someplace because he's there at the end. That's something I wanted to talk about. At the beginning, Spider-Man is very, very certain that Doc Connors is not in the Lizard's body anywhere at all.
Yeah.
And all it takes is for Morbius to reverse the process and make him look human for Spider-Man to immediately go, oh, you're right.
Yeah, Spider-Man
that really bothered me. It was so oversimplified.
Spider-Man's just written really strangely in this story in general. I thought he's almost written to the point where I was seeing like Frank Miller sort of things similar to the way he was speaking. He was like, Morbius sucked on someone's neck and all of a sudden, and I could see him getting angry, but he like talks about how he's going to be like a smear on the pavement and stuff, and he's like, well, almost to the point where he wants to kill him, and he even is okay at the end with killing Lizard, maybe with the harpoon. He says, he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. This may kill him, but whatever. I don't care. And he gets to the point where he's okay with killing someone.
Well, but he also has, that's what was so inconsistent about it for me, though, is that when he was chasing after Morbius, he was talking like he wasn't even hesitating. I don't even care about you anymore. I'm able to completely justify the fact that I want you dead because I don't have to see you as being even kind of human anymore because you bit a friend of mine in front of me. And then you get to the end, and he does have moments of hesitation with the Lizard, where he's like, I don't really want to kill. I don't know if I should do this. And you're right. He ultimately kind of makes himself okay with it. But with all of this talk about no one's going to die on my watch anymore, I guess he wasn't talking about supervillains.
Yeah, and then even at the end when he's walking through the prison and Morbius is trying to ask him like if the person that he bit was all right, he's like, these men are nothing to me. It's just like, this is just really weird. Like, Peter Parker is a much more compassionate character than that, you know what I mean? And with Spider-Man, I feel like the villains, some of them are the maniacal and evil, but especially with like Lizard and Morbius, it's more complicated than that. They're not just
and he knows that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's really bizarre is that it's an arc that's supposed to be a story arc, not really a character arc, but I mean it's a story arc about how Spider-Man is this compassionate guy. That's what's set up at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
With Mary Jane throwing him his party and all of that. That is precisely what all that's about when he's talking to her about how, I'm on my watch, no one will ever die anymore. And she's like, that's stupid. And I'm like, see, I like Mary Jane because she says the things that I want to say while I'm reading this.
Yeah.
Because she's like, well, that's stupid. You can't do that. Nobody could possibly live up to that. And I don't feel like it was this thing where he went, where when dealing with Morbius, he went, you know what? Mary Jane's right. I can't live up to that. So screw it. I'm going to kill this guy.
Yeah.
Like, that would have even been preferable to what we got, which was just almost like it forgot about all of that stuff.
Yeah, it was just...
I felt like it was grossly inconsistent.
It definitely was, and I definitely agree with you, the moments of inconsistency towards the end. I mean, back to what we were talking about before when Peter was fighting and yelling about how maybe Kirk Connors was evil all along and how he thinks that, and then he still even hesitates at the end to kill him, where he's just like, oh, maybe he's still a good guy, even though I just said a panel ago that he's probably all evil.
Yeah, and again, like, he could have moments where he starts to lose it. I mean, that's fine. I would be completely okay if he had a moment where he just kind of snapped and he was just like, I can't believe this is going on.
Yeah. And we had,
and then later he has time to really stop and take a breath and think about it and go, wow, I can't believe I got to that place. But that's not what happens here. He's just, in any given moment, this is bipolar Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, at any given moment, he's either totally going to make sure that everyone survives everything when he's around, no one will die, or Michael Morbius and the Lizard totally suck and I want them to die.
I still stand by the statement that I think Dan Slott should be writing Deadpool instead, because if you just take this and change some of the names around, it could work. Because Deadpool's motivations don't have to make sense, and you just write gags.
Yeah, well, what's really sad is, it's never good in a story like this when you can take the initial premise and you can do what you did at the beginning of this video, Dan, where you said, okay, here's what thematically it should have been, and I can automatically make it a better story.
Yeah.
You never want the thing that you come up with while you're reading it to be better than what it was.
Right, because you could have easily tied Morbius, the Lizard, and Spider-Man's sort of scientific backgrounds into a tight global character piece.
And I'm with you. That's where it felt like it was going at the beginning. The thing about it is, Lizard, you don't really have to necessarily know who he was before you read this. Now granted, like you said, it kind of feels like it thematically sort of contradicts some things that was done earlier with this character.
Yeah.
But it gives you his background for the most part. Morbius, though, boy, if you've never read Morbius before, you don't even know what he's about or who the heck he is.
No, I mean, there's a brief sort of blurb when Morbius is flying, when Peter's about to, drop kick him while he's swinging, where he says, that Morbius isn't, one of those sparkling vampires from Twilight or whatever. He's, a product of science, and he's not really dead and all that stuff. But other than that,
but you don't know what he's about. You don't know what his background was.
Yeah.
You know that he's trying not to be. He's trying to be as vampiric as possible. He tries not to eat, not to bite people,
right,
and all of that. But you don't really know where he came from.
Right. Exactly.
And that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I bring that up is because, again, I don't see how you could possibly tie the three characters together as scientists, as you suggested, without having that stuff there.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you just look at the three characters' sort of origins, they're all people of science involved that got their powers by accident, involved in experiments where they were trying to, alter natural law and stuff, and look at all the amount of peril that's come into their lives because of that. I think that would have been an interesting thing to look at through the different lenses of the characters. But that didn't end up really going there. Morbius sort of fell out of the story halfway through when Spider-Man captured him. He didn't really do anything with him, really, other than serving as a distraction so the Lizard could do all his lizard things at Horizon Labs.
I felt like it was kind of odd being only a 4-issue arc that you took a character like that out. A character out that fast like that.
Right, and it was teased in the 3rd issue that was going to be the no turning back point for Michael Morbius. And I don't know. The only real character thing that I saw here that went on was Peter Parker was sort of told that he was right for being incompassionate and not having any sympathy for the supervillains, which I find kind of depressing, and not something that I would want to see Spider-Man learn in a story.
Well, when he made such a big deal at the end of the last arc about after Silver Sable died, or after reading this, she apparently died but didn't really die.
Yeah, and Hobgoblin didn't die either, so both of the major deaths that have been in this run really didn't happen.
Yeah, none of that was actually important. Go figure. Are we surprised? I'm not surprised. But all I was going to say was, you get to the end of that arc, and you know that he's gonna play up this whole Spider-Man's not going to let anybody die around him thing, and then you would expect an arc where just that blows up in his face.
Yeah.
I would have made it a much bigger death that isn't on his conscience so much as he just realizes that he can't be held responsible for freaking everything.
Right.
That's what I would have done, but it's not just a personal taste thing. I really don't know why you would set that up and not go that direction. It sure felt like that would have been the point of that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. The way that this was handled, it sort of defied my expectations. So, that's sort of what I thought Dan Slott was going for here, is defying our expectations, but he did it in such a way where I think defying our expectations got in the way of the execution. Just the way he made the story twists for reasons that it didn't need to be twisted. I don't know. Like we said before, most of the twists seemed really forced, and I think that's where most of the I think that's most of what the story's problems are. Because when you think about the twists in the story, that's where all of the contradictions and things with the characters really come up. So if I think he had did something closer to what we were talking about before, it might have worked better. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's unfortunate. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of details that were kind of fun. I got to ask you this question though, before we quit. Did it bug you that we had to have a story with lizard people so soon after spider people?
Yeah, they kind of even talked about that in the story.
I like that they joked about it. I like that he at least felt the need to joke about it.
Yeah, I mean, at least he was in good humor about it, I suppose. But it didn't really bother me too much. I thought it was kind of strange that they set up that rule that the lizards don't naturally attack people, though.
That was strange.
I'm not sure if that contradicts things from past continuity, but I think it might. I don't know.
Well, Dan, thanks a lot for being with me again, man.
Oh, no problem. It's been fun.
Like I said, there's a part of me that wants to keep going with Slott, but only to review it with you. And I got to be honest, I'm just not enjoying it enough to keep on it, to keep buying this twice a month.
Yeah, and it's $8 too.
It's so kind of all over the place right now, and I think that what's so frustrating about it is that Slott will get again these ideas that at first I'll go, okay, this is really fun, and then he just can't quite execute them. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate, but I don't want to keep giving it money because it's called Spider-Man,
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read any of the alpha stuff, but I haven't heard great things. So
yeah, I didn't love that first issue of that. I did read that.
Well, hopefully it gets better eventually.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, for watching the Comic Book Vault and allowing Dan and I to rant a little bit. And Dan, next time I think we're going to cover something older.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think next time is the time that we are finally going to tackle an old Venom miniseries.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna do Lethal Protector next time, Dan.
That'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
It will.
Well, hey, everybody, thanks again for watching. If you ever want to send me anything to review on the Comic Book Vault, single issues, trades, whatever you happen to have sitting around, you don't want any more, or you want to let me borrow because you're itching to see me review something, I send that to the Comic Book Vault. That's our P.O. Box, Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. Thanks again, Dan. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And happy reading.